official was sentenced to a grand total of 3 days in jail. Keep going clockwise. The gentleman on the lower right, he's from Pennsylvania. In his case, it was his mother who had died. He nevertheless cast her ballot for Donald Trump in the 2020 election. He was caught. He got probation. And then the last guy, lower left there, he's another Pennsylvania Republican whose mother also died. Apparently, he couldn't help himself. He cast a ballot in her name in the 2020 election. He got caught. He got probation. There was no large-scale fraud of any kind in the 2020 election. There were a handful of sort of pitiful individual voter fraud cases like this, voting twice effectively, using a dead relative's ballot, that sort of thing. And in a handful of cases, the ones involving these Republican guys that I just showed you, for example, in a handful of cases, we have seen those cases fully adjudicated already. They've made their way all the way through the criminal justice system. And of those 4 cases, we know one guy got 3 days in jail and the rest just got probation. That's what those guys have in common. Now, this is Pamela Moses of Memphis, Tennessee. This week, Ms. Moses was also sentenced for a crime related to her efforts to vote in the 2020 election. Ms. Moses had a felony conviction in Tennessee that legally resulted in her not being allowed to vote again in that state. But she says that nobody ever told her that that particular conviction meant that she couldn't vote. And her county elections board admits in writing that despite her conviction, they never actually took her off the voting rolls. A probation officer with the Tennessee Department of Corrections even wrote her a note, filled out an official certificate saying that Ms. Moses was eligible to vote. Ms. Moses turned in that certificate from the probation officer along with her voter registration application. And for that grave crime, she was just sentenced in Tennessee. What was her sentence? She got 6 years in prison.
Yo, 6 blood fire 10 years. What kind of craziness is that? Yo, I thought we had judges for a reason, right? Judges supposed to be there. They understand the situation. You give them all the information, and then they make a fair assessment and sentence. They put out a sentence. This is like the most shut and closed case anybody could come up with.
Was she black?
She black. I mean, she said she had a note that said she could vote, all this different stuff. Go ahead, Bendo.
I was like the note didn't help. Who was her lawyer?
I don't know if it's the lawyer or what, but this was enough of a bad situation.
It's not the lawyer. I just wanted to clip that. It's the same thing everywhere. It's just like
that's not the first time that's happened.
No, and in every kind of situation, because if you remember, and it's happened multiple times, that swimmer that raped the girl, it was like, but this is a nice young guy. We don't want to ruin his future prospects. If it's somebody else that's of color, that would have been like, man, this is a bad apple. We need to make an example out of him. So
affluenza, you think a little bit of affluenza? They need to come up with the word for affluenza is more for like the rich people. So we need to get something for like when it's almost like the NFL coach situation. You hear about how they're getting sued. And it's because all the owners are white. So they're going to hire other white people to be the coach, usually.
The white flu.
The white flu. Oh, man. It's crazy out here. Definitely. Let me see what else we got here. Go ahead, Carlito.
Nah, I was just thinking, because I was talking, to like my boss, and he's a, white guy. And he's progressive. But I don't understand why somebody like him could see people doing wrong, and they're usually white, and he's like, they messed up. But other people feel like, why are you attacking white people? Or why is it like why always got to be a white thing or whatever? It's like, sometimes you just see what it is. It's like it's just the way it is, man. It's the culture, the history of this country. It doesn't mean that whoever is alive now is responsible for everything that happened before. But you got to be responsible for what's happening now.